Welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how to make Ponyo and her little bucket. A few notes before we begin. This is not a complete beginner pattern and I recommend getting to know the basic stitches before starting this tutorial. Feel free to pause and play back at any point of this video. There is a Ribbler and PDF version of this pattern available, so you can check those out in my shops, which are linked in the description. Those include the written pattern as well as some pictures, and you could follow along while you're making this. Feel free to use your desired materials. I just included what I used to make mine. So to start off, we'll be making the head with the peach yarn. So we'll start by making a magic circle. So I'll take the yarn, wrap it over my two front fingers. Make sure it's clamped between your middle finger and your ring finger. Take the working yarn, wrap it around your fingers again, and make sure there's an X over top. And you'll want the working yarn to be closest to where your knuckles are. So you'll take your hook, go under this loop, and grab this yarn, pull up, and chain one. Take your fingers out, and there's your magic ring. So for round one, we'll be working 6 single crochets into this magic ring. So to do that, stick your hook through the magic ring, pull some yarn through. You should have 2 loops, then pull through those 2. And repeat this 5 more times so you have a total of 6 stitches. Once you're done, pull up the yarn, and we're gonna hold it where our first single crochet was and pull the tail. Well, the tail that is not part of your working yarn, so you don't unravel everything. And that closes your magic ring. Put your stitch marker into the last stitch and your hook back into the yarn. And that is round 1. For round 2, we're gonna do an increase in each stitch around, so by the end we should have 12 stitches. So I like to carry the yarn with me, but search for the first stitch, stick your hook through that stitch, and just do a single crochet. But for the increase, you're gonna do 2 single crochets into 1 stitch. So those are your first 2 stitches, and repeat this around. So again, a single crochet, and in the same stitch, do another one. So by the end, you should have 12 stitches. This is the end of round 2, and there are 12 stitches. For round 3, we're gonna do a single crochet, then an increase all the way around, and we should end up with 18 stitches. So single crochet, and then an increase. And just do that all the way around. So single crochet and then increase, and you'll end up with 18 stitches. And this is what round 3 should look like with 18 stitches all the way around. For round 4, we're gonna do a single crochet, increase, single crochet. So single crochet, increase, single crochet. And just repeat that all the way around, and you should end up with 24 stitches. So single crochet, increase, single crochet. And this is what round 4 should look like with 24 stitches around. For rounds 5 and 6, we're just gonna single crochet all the way around, and you should have 24 stitches in each round. There will be a total of 2 rounds of this, so crochet in each stitch and I'll be back. After 2 rows of 24 stitches all the way around each row, you should have the head looking like this so far, and you should be done round 6. For round 7, we're gonna start by making 7 single crochets. After the 7 single crochets, we're gonna make 3 increases in the next 3 stitches. After the 3 increases, we're gonna do 4 single crochets. And in the next 3 stitches, we're gonna do another 3 increases. And in the last 7 stitches, we're gonna do a single crochet in each. And that is round 7, and you should have 30 stitches all the way around. For round 8, we're gonna do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, then 2 single crochets. And we'll repeat that all the way around, and we'll end up with 36 stitches. So starting off with 2 single crochets, then your increase, and 2 single crochets. And repeat that all the way around. So again, single crochet, 2, an increase, and 2 single crochet. Repeat that all the way around to the stitch marker, and you should have 36 stitches. And that is round 8, and you should have 36 stitches all the way around. For round 9, we'll start off by doing single crochet and a decrease 3 times. So a single crochet, and for decreases, I like to do the invisible decrease. So by doing that, look for the V's in your stitches, and you could see that there's a loop in front. So I like to stick my hook through the front loop of 2 stitches to make the decrease. So you have the 2 front loops, pull the yarn through, and it's just like how you make a single crochet. So do that 3 times. So the single crochet and the decrease, so the 2 front loops, and one more time, a single crochet and the decrease. So that is 6 stitches so far, and then we're gonna do a single crochet, and we'll do 3 decreases. So again, just do the front loops, and we're gonna do a single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and again we're gonna do 3 decreases, and then we're gonna do a single crochet and a decrease 3 times. So single crochet, decrease, single crochet, decrease, single crochet, and decrease, and And in this last stitch, we're gonna do a single crochet. And you should have 24 stitches. For round 10, we're just gonna do a decrease in each stitch, and we should have 12 in total by the end. So again, just a decrease in each stitch. And for the last stitch, the 12th stitch, just leave these 2 stitches unworked. So just put your 2 front loops and pull the yarn through those and leave it like that. And I'm gonna grab my red yarn now. So leave those 2. Take the working tail, and we're just gonna take the yarn, and instead of working with the peach yarn now, we're gonna be working with the red yarn. So I'm just gonna pull that through, and we'll be single crocheting the tail along so we can worry about that later. But that is round 10 done, and there should be 12 stitches. So for round 11, we're gonna be working in the front loops, and we'll do a single crochet and increase all the way around. So again, since I just connected the red yarn, I'll be carrying both tails so they're secure. And if we look at our yarn, our working stitches, we can see that there's a V, and we'll be only working through this loop closest to us. So just stick your working hook through it, and make sure you pull both of these tails so they don't fall out. And I'm just gonna put it over my hook like this so it won't be in the way, but will carry the yarn so it won't be undone. So just making a single crochet like regular, pulling the yarn through and pulling it through that, and then an increase, and we'll just be doing that all the way around. And I'm just gonna carry these tails until the red yarn runs out. So again, single crochet, increase, and you could see the red yarn is basically gone now from the tail. So I'm just gonna grab my scissors and cut the peach yarn. And we won't need the peach yarn anymore. So now I'm just gonna stick these tails there, and I'm just gonna keep working the single crochet and increase until I reach the end. And with that, you should have 18 stitches all the way around. And as you could see from the inside, you could see the back loops, and you should have worked through the front loops. So it looks like that. And here's the front view. And now you could begin stuffing the head as well. And this is how it should look. For round 12, make sure you have your white yarn ready, because we'll be making color changes in this round, and we'll be starting to make Ponyo's belly. So to start off, we'll be doing a single crochet, increase, single crochet 2 times. So now we're working through both loops again, the front and the back loops. So single crochet, increase, single crochet, and again, single crochet, increase, single crochet, and those are your first 8 stitches. So For this last stitch though, I'm just gonna undo it real quick and redo the first step with the single crochet. So now I have the 2 loops. I'm gonna change the color to white. So again, I'm just gonna take the white yarn, and instead of working with the red tail, I'll be pulling the white tail through. And again, I'm just gonna carry these 2 tails while I'm working the yarn. So in the next 4 stitches, we're gonna do white single crochets. So single crochet 4 times. And with this 4 single crochet, I'm just gonna have the 2 loops on my hook again. And I'm just gonna put the white tail aside, grab my red tail again, and I'm just gonna pull the red tail through. So that completes the 4 single crochets. And then with the red, I'm gonna do increase single crochet 4 times. So an increase, single crochet, and repeat that to the end. So now you should have 24 stitches in this round, and you could see the start of Ponyo's belly. Keep the white yarn inside, and we'll be continuing to work with this white yarn for the next 2 rows as well. Round 13 and 14 are exactly the same. So we'll start off by single crocheting 7 with red. When you get to the 7th stitch, make the first part of the single crochet. You should have 2 stitches on your hook, and taking the white yarn from before, you should still have the tail attached. I'm just gonna drop the red yarn, and I'm gonna pull the white yarn through like it's my working yarn. So it should look like that, and the inside should look a bit messy with these lines, but it's the inside, so you won't be able to see it. So again, I'm just gonna proceed with my white yarn, and I'm gonna do 6 single crochets with the white. And again, once you reach this last stitch, the 6th stitch, pull 2 loops on your hook, grab the red working yarn, and I'm just gonna pull the red through like it's my working yarn, and that should be 6 stitches in white for the belly. And for the last 11 stitches, we're gonna do a single crochet in each. So that is round 13 done. Round 14 is the exact same, doing 7 single crochets with red, 6 single crochets with white, and then 11 single crochets with red again. So you could replay that part back, and I'm just gonna work my stitches now. I forgot to mention, but we won't be needing the white anymore, so I'm just gonna carry it with the last few stitches so it's secure. So I did about 4 stitches of the red, and now I'm just gonna cut the white yarn, and I'm just gonna keep on crocheting till the end. And that is round 14 done. This is how it should look. Make sure there's 24 stitches all the way around, and that is round 13 and 14 done. For round 15, we're gonna do a single crochet, decrease, single crochet all the way around until we reach 18 stitches. But instead of working through both loops or the front loops, we'll be working in the back loops. So there's the front loop closest to you and the back loop is furthest from you. So instead of working through here, we'll be working through this middle. So we're gonna start with a single crochet and then a decrease. And a single crochet. And repeat that around. So a single crochet, a decrease, single crochet. So do that till the end and you should have 18 stitches. So this is what round 15 should look like. You should see that there's a pretty obvious border around here now, all the way around. And now I'm just gonna start stuffing the body. So if you don't like working with the stuffing, you could put the stuffing in after this round or during this next round, just because it is sticking out a bit. For round 16 and the final round of the body, we're gonna do 9 decreases in each stitch all the way around. So again, we'll be working through the front loops to make our decreases. So just do the front loops, single crochet basically, but decreases all the way around. So that is round 16 with 9 decreases, and you should be left over with 9 stitches all the way around. So I'm just gonna pull the tail up, pretty decent size, a bit longer than my finger, and I'm gonna cut the yarn. Again, you could add more stuffing if you'd like, but now I'm just gonna sew this hole closed. So I'm gonna take my darning needle. I'm gonna sew this hole closed, and to do that, I like sticking the darning needle through the front loops, so you could see the front loop. So I'm just gonna stick it through all the front loops. And once you stick it through all those front loops, you could just pull the tail and it should close up like that. With this remaining yarn, I'm just gonna stick it randomly through the bottom just so it's secure. And I'm just gonna find a random area and pull it through. Should be pretty flat at the bottom now. But I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna cut the excess yarn. And this is what the main base should look like at the end. And now we're gonna start by making the little fins on the bottom. So again, we'll be making it with red. I'm gonna start by making a slip knot. So to do that, just make a loop like that. Take the loop, put it over your working yarn. Push the yarn through here, and you should have it looking something like this. Put your hook through there. Could tighten this. And just like that. I'm just gonna pull the loop up a bit. And now we're just gonna take the Ponyo. And you could see earlier for round 14, we worked into the back stitches. So now there's the front stitches left over. So I'm just gonna leave the white part in the front, and you could see the back stitches. I'm just gonna stick my hook through there. I'm gonna take this loop and I'm gonna pull it through. And I'm just gonna tighten it a bit. And I'm just gonna start by chaining one. And to do the fins, I'm just gonna carry this yarn again. In this same loop, we're gonna do a slip stitch. We're gonna do a half double crochet increase in the next 2 stitches, and I'm just gonna carry the end tail. So to do a half double crochet increase, we're gonna yarn under. We're gonna find the next back loop stitch, so mine's right there. I'm gonna stick it through, pull yarn through. Now you should have 3 stitches on your hook. Pull yarn through all 3 stitches. Again, in the exact same stitch, we're gonna yarn under, go through there, that same stitch, pull yarn through, 3 stitches on your hook, pull through those 3. And again in the next stitch, so we're gonna do a half double crochet increase. And we're gonna do 2 slip stitches in the next 2 stitches. So that's 1 slip stitch, and in the next stitch, slip stitch. And again, I'm just gonna do that. So a slip stitch, 2 half double crochet increases, that's 1 half double crochet increase. That's my second half double crochet increase. Then we're gonna slip stitch in the next 2 stitches. And keep doing that. The slip stitch, half double crochet increase 2 times, and 2 slip stitches until you have 4 of these. So that is 2. And I'm just gonna make the next 2. So now you should have 4 of these little bumps, and you can see I have 4 stitches left. So I'm gonna do a slip stitch. Then I'm gonna do 2 half double crochet increases. And instead of 2 slip stitches, since I only have 1 stitch left, I'm gonna do 1 slip stitch. And now I'm just gonna pull this tail up. Don't need it to be too long. Cut that. And looking at the bottom, you could see that there are 5 little bottom fins, and this, since I carried it with my working yarn earlier, I could cut this one. And I'm just gonna put the working yarn on my darning needle. And I'm just gonna stick my needle through that first slip stitch we made. And I'm just gonna take it, and I'm just gonna randomly weave it through the bottom so it looks nice, kind of. And just weaving it through. Then I'm just gonna stick it through the bottom to a random place, pull that through, and I'm gonna cut this. So now that is the base of Ponyo completely done, and we'll be working on her hair and her arms. So the arms will look like this, and you'll be making 2 of them. So I already made the first arm and left the tail. So grabbing your yarn, your red yarn, we're gonna start off with a magic ring again. So clamping the yarn between your ring and middle finger, taking your working yarn, wrapping it around these 2 fingers. Make sure the working yarn is closest to your knuckle. Go under this, the front, grab the yarn, and I'm just gonna chain 1. And into this magic ring, we're gonna start by doing 5 single crochets. So again, just do the magic ring, pull yarn through, then you should have 2 loops, pull yarn through those 2 loops. Repeat that 4 more times for a total of 5 stitches. And now I'm gonna take this end tail and I'm gonna close the ring, and it should look like that. Gonna put my stitch marker in, and that is round 1. For round 2 and 3, we're just gonna single crochet 5 around. So just make your regular single crochets all the way around, and you should have 5 stitches in each of the rows. And this is what it should look like after you're done round 2 and 3. So I'm just gonna leave pretty long tail, cut the yarn, pull this up. You can see that there's this tail from the beginning. You could either cut it or just stuff that yarn into the arms, since you won't be stuffing the arms. So I'm just gonna hide the tail in there. And to make sure it's secure, I'm gonna take my darning needle. I'm gonna find the last stitch. I'm gonna stick my darning needle through that. And for this last stitch, I'm just gonna go in between the V and stick it through and pull it tight, and that is the arm done. So you can repeat that part to make the second arm. So I'm gonna put these aside and we're gonna sew them to the body later. So now we'll be making the hair, and you'll need your orange yarn. So again, we're gonna start off with the magic ring. So clamp it between your ring and middle finger. Take the yarn, put it around. Make sure the working tail is close to your knuckle. Put your hook under that. Grab this and chain 1. And into this ring, we're gonna do 6 single crochets. So just stick your hook through, pull the yarn up, 2 loops, pull through both, and repeat that 5 more times. And you should have your 6 stitches, and pull this. Put your stitch marker in, and that is round 1. For round 2, we're gonna do 6 increases all the way around, and you should end up with 12 stitches. So again, an increase is 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And this is round 2 with 12 stitches all the way around. For round 3, we're gonna do single crochet, increase in each stitch. So single crochet, and then an increase. Single crochet, increase. And do that to the end, and you should have 18 stitches. And this is what round 3 should look like with 18 stitches all the way around. For round 4, we're gonna do a single crochet, increase, single crochet all the way around, so you should have 24 stitches. So single crochet, and then an increase, and then a single crochet. Repeat that, single crochet, increase, single crochet, and do that till the end. And this is what round 4 should look like with 24 stitches all the way around. Round 5, we're just gonna do 3 single crochets, then an increase all the way around. So with your 3 single crochets, and then an increase, repeat that, 3 single crochets, and an increase, and do that till the end. And this is what round 5 should look like with 30 stitches all the way around. Round 6, we're just gonna do 30 single crochets all the way around. And this is what round 6 should look like with 30 stitches all the way around. For round 7, we're gonna start with 3 single crochets, then a decrease, and repeat that all the way around until you have 24 stitches. So starting with the 3 single crochets, and then decrease, again 3 single crochets, and your decrease, and repeat that all the way around. And this is what round 7 should look like with 24 stitches all the way around. For round 8, we're gonna start making the bangs. So in the first 2 stitches, we're gonna do a decrease in each. So that's the first decrease and the second decrease. Make a slip stitch. So slip stitch, and then 2 double crochets. So to do that, yarn under, put it through the stitch, pull yarn through. You should have 3 stitches on your hook. Pull through these first 2 stitches, and you should have 2 more stitches on your hook. So pull the yarn through both of those. And in the next stitch, we're gonna repeat a double crochet. So 3 loops, pull through the first 2, pull through the next 2. Then we're gonna do a slip stitch, and we're gonna do a slip stitch. And now in this next stitch, we're gonna do a half double crochet and a double crochet. So go through 3 loops, pull through all 3, yarn under, go into that same stitch, pull through these first 2 and these next 2, and then we're gonna do a double crochet and then a half double crochet in this next stitch. So your double crochet, then your half double crochet, and in the next stitch a slip stitch. So we're gonna repeat that again. So a slip stitch, a half double crochet, a double crochet, those two were in that one stitch, and in the next stitch a double crochet, and then a half double crochet, and those were in the same stitch. Then we're going to do a slip stitch, and then in this next stitch a slip stitch, then in the next two stitches we're going to do a double crochet in each, that's one double crochet, and that's your second double crochet. Then we're gonna do a slip stitch, and you should have 4 remaining stitches, so we're gonna do 2 decreases. So that's the first decrease, and that's the second decrease, and that is the hair done now. So I'm just gonna leave a pretty long tail so I could sew it to the head later. Pull this through, and again I'm just gonna secure this. I'm gonna go through the last stitch. That was the first stitch, I mean. And in this last stitch, you see the V. I'm just gonna stick it in between the V. And that is the main part of the hair all done. Now we're gonna make the hair tuft, the little hair on top of Ponyo's head. So taking our orange yarn again, I'm gonna make a slip knot. So I'm just gonna make a loop, put this loop over the working yarn, take this, pull it through, and put my hook in there and tighten it. And now I'm gonna start by chaining 3. So 1, 2, 3, and you could see the 3 chains. So we'll be working into this middle one, the second one from your hook, and we're gonna do a half double crochet. So yarn under, stick your hook through that chain, pull the yarn through. You should have 3 loops and pull through all 3. Gonna slip stitch into that same stitch, and in the next stitch we're gonna do the same thing. So half double crochet, then the slip stitch, and that is the hair tuft. So I'm just gonna leave a decent tail and pull this through, and now we're gonna assemble everything. So now you should have all the body parts done. We're gonna take the body and the hair, and we're gonna sew that on first. So looking at the hair, the tail should be at the back, and you should see that there's the 4 bangs. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So make sure these 2 pretty big ones are in the front. So you're just gonna take Ponyo and you're gonna fit this over the head. So just shove it in. So if this hair part is too big, you could stuff it. And if it's too small, it might have been because your tension was too tight or you're using a different size yarn. So the hair should look like that. Make sure it aligns with this belly part. And you could see and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and barely 6 up here of the face. So you could see 6 visible stitches or rows of the face. And now, since the hair could just come off at any moment, I'm gonna sew random places around it so it doesn't come flying off. So to do this, you could see in the back, I just like to stick it in between like the neck area and try and find the center of the front. Make sure there's the 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right above the 6th one, I'm gonna push my needle through there so it's like a unicorn and pull it through. And then I'm gonna stick it through in between the bangs. And then I'm gonna stick it back in, and I'm gonna go in between each of the bangs so it's secure there first. Then I'm gonna go to where the bottom of the bang is, and I'm gonna sew that down as well. So you want to do this in the hair so it's not visible on the head. And it should be pretty secure already, but I'm gonna just go through the back again, and I'm gonna sew random places down. So you don't have to sew all the way around, but if you did stuff it because you found the hair was too big, you'd want to sew all the way around. So after it's pretty secure to the head, I'm just gonna stick the darning needle somewhere random, and I'm just gonna cut this yarn now. And now the hair is fully attached to the head. So now I'm gonna take the hair tuft. I'm gonna take the yarn that was the working yarn and put it in my darning needle. So now if you look here, you could see the little circles, the rows. So I'm just gonna count 1 and 2. So between row 2 and 3, I'm gonna sew the hair. So looking at the front again, I'm just gonna put that there and make sure it's pretty centered with the face, so it's aligned. So I'm just gonna stick my needle through. I'm gonna skip this one stitch in between. I'm gonna pull it through, and I'm just gonna gonna stick it through to this other side. So it should look like this now. I'm just gonna go back through to the other side. And I'm gonna try and secure it. And then I'm gonna go back and do the same thing on the other side again. So that is pretty secure now. So now you can see it's just like a random lump at the top of the head. So earlier we left that one stitch in between. So I'm gonna stick it through around where the middle was. And then I'm gonna pull this up. And then taking your yarn, you're gonna go over that and just stick it through the back, kind of where it is on the other side as well. And I'm just gonna stick it through where the hair is on the side again. So making sure this bump is there, and you'll have it around the middle. Just pull this down and you should see two little bumps form now. So I'm just gonna stick the yarn through somewhere random. And don't cut it yet. I'm gonna take the other tail and I'm just gonna stick this tail through where this tail is. So now you could see the two tails are together. I'm just gonna tie them together. And I'm gonna cut this. And I'm just gonna hide these tails inside now. And that is the hair part all done. Now we're gonna sew the arms on. So looking at this ponyo, you can see that there's around 2 stitches in between the top white row and the arms. So we're gonna sew them like that, and you could see that it's from the neck and it's 2 rows, so this top row and this row. So we're gonna sew around the arms like that. Okay, so you should have your yarn on your darning needle. So I'm gonna start on this side. You can count the stitches like this, 1 and 2. So going to where the neck is, I'm just gonna stab it through like that. Pull it through. And make sure there is still that distance. And we're gonna sew around the arm now. So I like to sew by sticking it through the loops like this and pulling it through. So that was through the arm. Now we're gonna go through the body. I'm gonna go like that. Pull the yarn. Now going through the arm again. And then through the body. So now it's on the second row down. And through the arm again. make sure again it's on the top 2 rows. So now I'm just gonna go this way. And then do the arm again. And just make sure there's that 2 stitch distance from the white. So now I'm gonna go up. And to the neck again. Do the arm for one last time. So the arm should look like that. I'm gonna take this, stab it through the neck to the bottom, somewhere random again. I'm just gonna pull that tight. And that is the first arm attached. And we'll do that with the second arm now. I'm just gonna stick it where the other tail is. Pull that through. And I'm gonna tie a knot so arms are secure. And I'm gonna cut this excess tail. And I'm gonna hide the tail. So now the assembly is complete. The hair is sewn on with the tuft on top. And the arms are sewn on with 2 stitches between the top row of the white from the arms. And the arms are on the top 2 rows of the body. So now we'll be making the facial details. So for the face, you'll be needing brown felt, and for the eyelashes, I use brown yarn. So you could see that the brown felt is cut into little ovals about 1 stitch tall, and the eyelashes are just above it, and it's about half a stitch tall. So first I'm gonna cut out the eyes. So with your brown felt, I like to start off by cutting 2 little rectangles. So you always want to make it a bit bigger and then cut it smaller. So you should start off with your 2 rectangles and then round the corners. So this part takes a bit of patience, but I recommend using a sharp pair of scissors. And you could just put it on and see if it's about that stitch tall. And I like it, so I'm gonna make the other eye. So I like the size of these eyes. So just looking at this Ponyo, the eyes are about 3 stitches apart, 3 to 4 stitches, since there's the 3 stitches in the middle and then there's half a stitch on each side. So I'm gonna see the 3 stitches in the middle, then half a stitch on each side. So it's about 4 stitches apart. So once I like that, I'm not gonna glue it on yet. I'm gonna take my brown yarn. This is just a scrap piece of yarn, and you can see that yarn has multiple strands, so I'm gonna take one of the strands, and this is just a sewing needle, so I'm gonna put the yarn through my needle and just sticking the needle through the side of the head. I'm gonna go under where the eye is. So just like that. And pull it through. Make sure you leave a tail there. And I'm gonna go about half a stitch up. And I'm just gonna stick it through where the other eye is. So you can see that there's a line right above the eye now. And I stuck it through where the other eye is. And again, I'm gonna go half a stitch up. And I'm gonna go to where this tail is. So you can see where the two lines are. I'm just gonna again place the eyes on top of where I want them to be. So you can see that there's about 3 stitches, 3 rows, and it's on the 3rd row. So once you like that placement, it doesn't have to be the exact same every time, but if you like it, that's how it is. So I'm just gonna take my piece of cardboard and a toothpick. I'm gonna take glue. I recommend using fabric glue. This is super glue because it's the only glue I have. So I'm just gonna dab on the glue. I'm gonna take the toothpick, dab it into the glue, and where the eyes are, I'm just gonna dab the toothpick where it is. And once the eyes are glued, I'm just gonna take the extra yarn from the lashes. I'm gonna tie them together. And I'm gonna cut the excess and hide the tail. And that is your Ponyo done. And now, if you'd like, I'm gonna make her the bucket. So the bucket is made of green yarn and it has a handle. So we'll be making the base and then working up, and then we'll crochet the handle. For the bucket, it will be made out of green yarn. So to start off, we're gonna be making a magic ring again. So putting the yarn between your middle and ring finger, wrapping it around, making sure the tail is towards your knuckle. Go under this, pull that through, chain 1, and we're gonna do 6 single crochets into this magic ring. Pull the magic ring closed. Take your stitch marker, and this is how round 1 should look with 6 single crochets around. Round 2, we're just gonna do an increase in each stitch around, and you should end up with 12 stitches. This is round 2 with 12 stitches all the way around. For round 3, we're gonna do an increase in each stitch all the way around again, but we'll do it 12 times and have 24 stitches. And this is round 3 with 24 stitches all the way around. For round 4, we're gonna do 3 single crochets, then an increase all the way around. So 3 single crochets, and then an increase. Repeat that. Single crochet 3, and an increase, and repeat that around, and you should have 30 stitches. And this is round 4 with 30 stitches all the way around. Round 5, we're gonna do 2 single crochets, increase, and 2 single crochets. So your 2 single crochets, an increase, and 2 single crochets. Repeat that. 2 single crochets, and increase, 2 single crochets, and do that all the way around, and you should end up with 36 stitches. And this is round 5 with 36 stitches all the way around. So for the previous parts of this pattern, we worked in a continuous round, so we didn't slip stitch and chain 1, but now we'll be doing joined rounds from now on. So after each row, we're gonna do a chain 1 and slip stitch. So now we'll also be doing half double crochets. So just chain 1 first, and again we're gonna work in the back loops. So instead of working in this front loop here, we'll be working in this back loop. So we'll be half double crocheting all the way around for a total of 36 in the back loops only. So yarn under, go through the back loop, pull it through, 3 loops on your hook, and pull it through, and just do that 35 more times. So that is round number 6 done. So now we'll need to slip stitch and chain 1. So looking at the top of your first stitch, I'm gonna, instead of slip stitching through both, I'm gonna slip stitch through the back, and I'm gonna chain 1. And for rounds 7 through 11, for a total of 5 rounds, we're gonna half double crochet into all of the stitches for a total of 36 stitches in each round. So until you finish round 11. So I'm just gonna show you the first stitch. We went through the back loop, but now we're gonna half double crochet through the front and the back. So do those 2. And this is so there won't be a pretty obvious line for when you slip stitch and half double crochet. So just go on with your rows, 36 stitches in each row until you reach round 11. So this is what it should look like after you're done round 11. So 5 joined rounds of 36 half double crochets. So now for round 12, I'm just gonna chain 1 again, and instead of working in the back loops or both loops, we'll be working in the front loops, and we'll just single crochet 36 in the front loops only. So once your 36 single crochets are done, it should look like this. So instead of slip stitching now, I'm gonna do an invisible fasten off. So leave a short tail, take your darning needle. So through the first stitch of the round, stick your darning needle through, and through this last stitch, stick it through that V, and should be an invisible fasten off. And now we're just gonna weave this tail into the bucket, and you just wanna cut the tails. And this is the bucket pail done, and we'll be making the handle. So for the handle, we're gonna take our green yarn and leave a pretty decent tail, and then make your slip knot. And then we're just gonna chain 30. And once your 30 chains are done, you could see if you like the length of it by comparing it to the bucket pail. And I like mine like that. So I'm just gonna leave the tail about the same as the beginning. And we'll be sewing it to the bucket pail now. So just put one end on your darning needle, and just anywhere on the bucket, you'll see this last row and the row before it, so round 12 and 11. Stick your needle through there, and then we're just gonna weave and sew this into that position. So I'm just gonna go back through, stick it through there, go through the other side. So just try your best to secure this. And then we're gonna go back through into the pail, and we're gonna weave this end in. And you could just cut the excess tail. And that's pretty secure. And we're gonna take the other tail now. We're gonna wanna sew it on the other side, opposite to where the other tail is. So you could either count so it's the exact same, or you could just roughly estimate where it is. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing. So stick it between the top two rows, and just do your best to secure this. Make sure it's nice and secure, and cut this tail. And with that, the bucket is done. So you could take your Ponyo and put it inside if you want. So she's like in the movie, in the bucket. If you find that she keeps slipping into the bucket, you could always add stuffing to the bottom of the bucket, but this is how she should look. And with that, your Ponyo should be done. You could either leave her in the bucket or leave her out of the bucket. And I hope you guys like this video. If there are any improvements I can make, please leave it in the comments. If you have any suggestions for other videos, it doesn't have to be tutorials, please also leave those in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys next time.